Have the Orks reached their peak? Is Warhorde the only way? Or will Tactical finally find its true rise? As the Orks look at the rising enemies on the horizon with power armored beakies everywhere, with them horned, smelly, stinky, dusty Marines on the horizon, what will the Orks move to? I find it to be a very interesting and exciting matchup. Well, how do you guys feel as we move into the rise of the wall? And of course, we're going to start with the stats and the facts. And today we actually have a new feature where the comments will be being shown live at certain parts of the stream. So boom, if you are in the chat, which we'll give a shout out to the chat. What's up, Tiger Melt, Arcane Asylum, Brandon, Schultz in the Dark, Blood Moon, Mike. And already you guys are talking about Death Guard, as we can see. But of course, let's look at the stats and the facts. So as we look at our boy Meta Monday, always hooking up the whole 40K community. So shout out to that Git. As we look at the stats, we've seen 4 players that went X and 1. Nobody won any events. Okay, so with 59 players in total from the Orks weren't actually able to win any events. They had a 44% win rate, and players were just seeing Death Guard being a very popular army, for example. You know, people forget that they were a starter army, I believe, in 8th edition when I started 40K. So a lot of people just had them dusty Death Guard armies on the shelf, and they're pretty, thin collection, so you can really get a good amount of them going and get them on the table. So we've seen that as soon as they got rolling, people are starting putting them on the table. And as people were looking at how much we were getting tired of seeing tank busters and breaker boys, as we look at what's to come, you can understand that that's why we had it. And what else more tools do we have that we're going to see being played in redundancy today? So we had Bully Boys with a 30% win rate, the Hunt with a 36% win rate. Can I just say, I just shout out to the guys who are playing those armies. I love you, Gits. It's awesome. That's you guys just play how you guys want to play. I'm still trying to figure out and experiment. I see guys with Bully Boys, trying to see if they can get Alpha Strike armies off right now. People into Hunt, seeing how much of different, data sheets they can actually fit in their detachments. So I appreciate that. Then we have Dread Mob, which was at 6% win rate, which is always weird. You never know if there's just people memeing out there or if people are really just trying to get good results. So shout out to Dread Mob. I'm biased a little bit there, but I'm also biased about the Green Tide. And we're going to give our thoughts about Green Tide today, as we're actually going to show the Green Tide player. Of course, it's our boy Noah Benham, and we have comments about that as we look at the Green Tide and my personal thoughts and Noah's personal thoughts about Green Tide. We have them at a 59% win rate, always super strong. I appreciate that. I freaking love my Green Tide. That's where I started 40K, which is 90 boys and gas. I didn't know what I was doing. So yes, people in the chat right now still talking about Death Guard, but yeah, I used to own Death Guard, and shout out to Disgustingly Resilient, because those guys be giving love all the time, and shout out to them. Oops, and I think they've moved out. But anyways, it's fine. We can see that Ed Meta Monday said themselves, Ork players were at a 44% win rate. And as for Orks and Taktikal Brigade, now it does show on here, this is something I looked at, is it does show on here that there is a more DACA list that actually ended up getting results. But as I looked into it, it was just a typoed Warhorde list. So it's actually a Warhorde list as there's more DACA lists. So there actually wasn't a more DACA list that had a result there. So not to make anybody feel bad, but yeah, so they're 33% win rate, even with that not true result. Then we have Taktikal Brigade with a 48% win rate with 1 X and 1. Then we have Warhorde with X and 1 as well, but really it was X and 2, because like I said, that more DACA list is actually X and 2. So we're going to look at both those Warhorde lists today, with Warhorde just sitting at 46% win rate with 18 players, and Tactical with 48%, Warhorde with 46% win rate with 18 players, and Tactical with 48% win rate with 14 players. So that's pretty awesome. That Orks are still giving such a good result of players, how many there are out there. And as for chat, I just want to give more shout out to the chat here. We have John Birkins in there, not playing Orks, switching the World Eaters and the Berserker War Band. Yeah, World Eaters got a bunch of good detachments as well that actually seem kind of interesting, like the Goremongers, the Demonkin. So there's definitely cool stuff that you can play in that. But what else is cool is our sponsors, the Baron of Dice. So shout out to the Baron of Dice. If you want to help out the community, and our check them out in our description for 5% off, because nobody likes taxes. And of course, check out our paint competition, as you do get a set of these dice, and they're high quality. And I personally love them myself and use them myself. And also shout out to our sponsor, Forge Fire Gaming, where we do, I personally use this terrain, and we use it for some of our tactical videos. So they have high quality bases with, in terrain with slots in them, so you can take off the terrain piece and get precise measurements. It happens all the time when I'm using my models, and I just have to pick them up and actually get precise, and there's nothing in question. So shout them out and check them out in the description as well. So as we move on, I want to talk about our boy Jeff Jew as one of those first Ork players that we're going to be looking at here. So with real quick, at this event that he was at, which is the San Diego Classic, there was a little twist in there that we're going to go over, as well as we're talking about Jeff Jew at this event, because it actually entails some of Taktikal Brigade that's going to be mentioned today, even though we're not going to be covering that list in itself. But we're going to talk about Jeff Jew. He gave me some notes. We actually did see him take this to Wet Coast as well. So you can check that video out where he went round by round. In this case, we didn't, because instead we have more of his personal thoughts about some of the exact games that he wanted to discuss, just 2 of the matchups, and then how his list looks going forward. So a little bit more concise and direct, but also appreciate it. And so let's take a look at his list real quick, as it's War Horde with Gazgulthraka. So a lot of people, if you're new upcoming Ork player, somebody returning to Orks, or somebody returning to 40k as a whole, and you're looking to a detachment to play and what to add to your army, I absolutely advise you play with Gaz. He's worth his points. He's very fun and thematic. And Makari is the true warlord of that, because his 12-inch lethal aura is very important to the actual value that is Gaz. So he has Gaz, only 2 bodyguards though with Gaz, 2 pain boys, 2 war bosses. Each war boss has an enhancement: 1 Follow Me Lads, 1 with Cunning But Brutal, 2 20-man unit of boys, 2 trucks, a battle wagon with Ard case, 4 big shooters, def cannon, cannon, a def roller, and then a lava. Another battle wagon with the identical loadout, followed by 2 5-man units of flash kits, 2 Gretchen, Storm Boys unit, and then 2 tank busters. So all the boys are inside of the wagons, keep them nice and safe until it's time to just vomit them out and really execute them on the wall. When he does play this list, it's very, very thin on units. Personally, how I feel as an Ork player, right? A lot of us like to have a lot of trash, play MSU. Some people like to go thin on characters. Some people like to bring a lot of trucks. Whatever it is, a lot of the time you like to have a lot of units. That's one reason why Bully Boys and the Hunt struggle. Yet something like this does actually work, because it takes advantage of something else Orks like to do, which is on the wall execution, whether you're killing the enemy or not with Gaz and his 12-inch lethal aura with both of these mobs making contact. It's about how much you tar pet them and don't let them, end up scoring and the primary where they need to be, tagging units that need to move around the battlefield and necessarily want to shoot and kill you in different ways. But they also punch hard enough that they can kill that frontline, whatever threat it may be, in conjunction with Gaz. So it's like just enough saturation of one certain kind of unit and data sheet, but it goes a long way when it's actually executed the right way. But in these matchups, we'll talk about how that actually ended up, whether it was super benefit for him, or where he said it kind of struggled, because he did get a great score with 2 100s right off the bat. So shout out to him. We're going to look at those. But as this event, as the twister that I wanted to put it in here, because I showed, as we started the video, that there was a tactical list that was 4-1, and it was Ben Jurek from Art of War. So no one to sleep on. And Ben Jurek here, but it was very interesting as we looked at what he lost to in this matchup, and it was a mirror. It was a mirror to Jensen Go, who was also playing Taktikal Brigade, right? So I wanted to take a look at both of their lists real quick, just to give another, look at how Taktikal Brigade is going, because Ben ended up still going 4-1, as you can see, but he did lose his first game. And then Jensen still got 12th place because he went 3-0 the first day, and then the second day he ended up taking 2 losses. So they both ended up still in the top, brackets up here. but very interesting to see that the Taktikal Brigade list that we would be very interested as an Ork community to look at, and they're playing right into each other, you know, one taking the other one down, and then the other one's still kind of struggling to get further. So, oops, I pulled a guy. So I want to pull up Ben's list first, just for the sake of it. So he said, how do I play Orks? I don't know. So we have 3 beast bosses. That seems to be the way, right? Very reliable right there. So 3 units of, because if you're playing with any detachment that has access to sustain, beast bosses can get off when they need to get off. Especially, they don't really rely on the wall necessarily. On the wall they go off, they're way better. And if you decide to use all these units on the wall, you can stack the Feel No Pain, the OC. That's very important, where they do end up fighting and dying on the battlefield. The points of the enemy, removing them. So their 6 up Feel No Pain plus the 5 up invul ends up having value on the wall. I'm just saying that they still can deliver and kill enemy, you know, vehicles or monsters, whether it's not on the wall or not. Big Mech and Mega Armor with Mech Captain, of course, for the flash hits, and then triple shock attack gun. Quite character heavy. We got 7 characters here, but that's actually quite consistent for Taktikal Brigade. 3 units of Snaggers, followed by just simply 1 5-man unit of Storm Boys. 5 trucks, a Burner Boy unit, a big unit of flash kits, 2 minimum size units of Gretchen, and then 3 tank busters. So it was really all just character missiles up on this field. And it was just all, I'm going to kill all the vehicles and monsters that there are. And anything in between still has just volume of damage and just the units in themselves and truck saturation. So not necessarily unsurprising or anything. Just the 3rd unit of Snaggers is very, Snaggers is very uncommon. But of course, shout out to Manjering and Art of War. They're freaking awesome. But let's take a look at Jensen real quick as to what he ended up using that ended up, you know, winning in this matchup. We have a Beast Boss with Mork's Cunning, followed by Big Mech and Mega Armor with Mech Captain. Big Mech was trying to get Tag Gun, and then Boss Snickra, yeah, for the uppy downies, giving orders and getting a bunch of secondary points. So it's really cool to see. And then we have the tech of Mech with the Gob Boomer. Really cool. Not too often that you bring that anymore, yet he brought it, and he was actually having value from it. Obviously going 3-1 on that first day. Let me pull these comments back up as I see you guys real quick. So yeah, he brought Mech with the Gob Boomer, right? A lot of the time people say they don't want to bring it. Of course, a lot of the time he's letting flash kits or something shoot out of the truck and take advantage of firing deck. Then we have Zagrot Wartsnaga. You guys know I love Zagrot Wartsnaga. If you ever check out the Taktikal Brigade video we made, I talk about why I love Zagrot in this detachment specifically, and the Mech Captain and the Boss Snickra. So really interesting just to see it played at this high of level play and do so well. A big brick of Beast Snagga Boys with that Beast Boss that we showed up here. So shout out to I'm having a brain fart right now. My boy, gosh, I'm having a brain fart. Who also ran the Stephen Paprine, where he also ran the Snaggas and the wagon. So that was awesome. First, so that's 3 5-man units of Storm Boys, 3 trucks, and then the wagon right there. 10-man unit of flash kits, a Gretchen unit, a 20-man unit of Gretchen, and then another minimum size unit of Gretchen. Followed by 3 tank busters. All right, so 3 tank busters, 3 Gretchen, and flash kits, a wagon, 3 trucks, 3 Storm Boys. Nice to see all the Storm Boys. 20 Snaggas, Zod, Mech Captain, Boss Snickra. So I'm really not sure how that game necessarily broke out or how that was into play. It could be very much so that if I had to guess the benefit of the doubt, it would be that Zagrot Wartsnaga ended up just tar pitting maybe the trucks and not allowing them to disembark or something weird like that a little bit early enough. Not maybe all the 20-man units of boys and Snaggas was just enough to tar pit and then force him to dig himself out and then be exposed. Not really sure how that went, but very, very because it was a 99-point win there. So nothing to sleep on. And then Jensen ended up losing to Yanari and Astra Militarum. These other 2 matchups that he had. And then Ben ended up winning all of his games. So that was very interesting. But as for my boy Jeff was who ended up getting 7th place up here and getting 2 fat 100s. So let's take a look at his actual matchup, and you guys in the comments. Let's see. We said, yeah, DG is pretty sweaty right now. Yeah, they're pretty tough, and yeah, double wagons out here. That's awesome. Let me get a whoa for Jank. What's up, homie? I love to see you. You think kill rigs would be on the rise with their ability to kill rhinos from range? They're still too expensive. I don't think kill rigs are too expensive at all. I think kill rigs people make them work. But you do need like a saturation of multiple kill rigs, or like 2 kill rigs and a battle wagon, or 2 kill rigs and a bunch of trucks. Then it comes down to like, what detachment are you playing? The archetype being War Horde, where you're just kind of saturating them with what Snaggas and maybe Breakas, and you know, then it's kind of like very MSU heavy. So I'm not saying that's actually wrong. That there could be something interesting there, as that's something that's already been proven. And as we look as to what there is to come with you know, the new detachments and armies that we're going to be facing out here, it's something that Jeff and I talk about, and Jeff mentions at the end of when we look at his actual matchups, what he thinks about it, could make this actually a little bit more matchup as the archetypes that do require a saturation of MSU units, and the kill rig isn't too expensive to be included in that. The one example that I've seen people played it was, I'm gonna brain fart. It was Jack Harpster versus John Lennon on Art of War, that actually played a matchup where he ran kill rigs and trucks and actually showed and demonstrated how that would be. And that is like a saturation MSU. So there's kill rigs that can be used. I'm not sure if we'll, you know, see them at the necessarily at the top winning events, but I think you can run them and have success against, you know, your local meta and matchups. And Jeff does mention how he thinks that would be an interesting thing too. But as for his games, let's take a look at his matchups real quick, as he just was dominating with something that he's been running for a hot minute. So it says Adeptus Custodes. I believe we have Blade Camp Champion, Shield Captain on Dawn Eagle Jet Bike, Valerian, 2 Custodian Guards, 2 Alaris Terminators, 2 big bricks of Wardens, Venatari, Praetors, 2 Witch Seekers, Inquisitor as allies. As everybody knows, you know, this can be a tough matchup if you kind of slow play it necessarily, where you allow them to take the initiative on you. So in this matchup, it's really important, as he's mentioned, where he makes contact with all his boys and gas on the wand turn, and he threatens with the tank busters from inside the truck to shoot at the custodes, to try to get them to either, which has happened, and many times what I hear from these people when they play games at events where they hear about tank busters, and the tank busters are going to shoot at firing tech, and the wardens can be shot, and they might pop their 4 feel no pain because they're scared of losing too many guys before they're hit with these bricks of 20-man units of boys. So even if it doesn't go off, that means you could kill a couple of wardens if they don't pop this. Not that it's likely, you know, they do still get cover and such, but there's something that the enemy has to take into consideration. Nonetheless, it does come down to you bang it out in the middle and overrun them with the typical War Horde conditions of fighting on death, Metal Carnage saturation with lethal sustain, and really just trading bodies for points and kind of holding them at the mid-table. Jeff is used to doing this and putting down the primary when he does. So while you're banging it out in the middle, you're making sure you're still winning and flipping those objectives and slowly eroding them. So 20-20. Using, you know, when they don't have tanks, they can't really disembark you. So you can use your transports to kind of draw them out and get them punched into you. And then you take the initiative from them as well. So easier said than done, but Jeff has a lot of reps. Then he goes into his second matchup, where we go the Adeptus Sororitas. So we have Canonas, 2 Hospitalitors, Morgan Fall, Sisters of Battle, 2 Emulators, 2 Castigators, Sacrosaints, 2 10-man units. I think those are actually 3 10-man units. I think those are actually pretty cool. Not super fan of Sisters, to be honest, as like I would ever play them or anything like that, but I don't hate the army, anything weird like that. It's just I think these are one of their coolest units. So whenever I see them on the table, I'm just a bias because they actually get crumping. Maybe that's what it is. Unit of Dominion, some Paragon war suits, and then 2 units of Helvrins. So one thing that I do know when I play into Sisters is, you know, they're very, very fragile. They do like to do damage at mid-range, which is also where Orks like to overwhelm you, because by the time you're mid-ranged out, you clear a wall at the proper timing, you make contact with them and pick up too much of their their assets, they can't really ever punch you off, and it's kind of like overrunning system, which is another 100-point win there for Mr. Jeff. Another 100-point win for us is Jay Hume with 5 Wall Tactic gifted memberships. Whoa! And actually, shout out to that for both of you gets right now with Pain After Dark, because we're actually going to do a video here after, possibly today. If you guys see live, if you guys are members, if you're getting off this, you can actually see that we're going to do a video with Brandon talking about the hunt run that he actually did back, a couple weeks ago, and how he looks at tactical and the new meta that it is to come. So thank you for both of you guys, Jay Hewen and Paint After Dark, as you guys are going to be able to see these videos now if you're members. So check that out and check out the other videos that we have on there. And thank you for the support, and shout out to you kids. Let me get a wall for can we get some war bosses in chat for that? All the other guys in chat as well, talking about utility. Yeah, you could use kill rigs. Yeah, and some dev dreads in chat. Yeah, the hunt talk. Yeah, we're gonna do the hunt talk because Brandon actually ran them and took them and did successful, but he has some thoughts for those guys who might want to hear more about it, because there's still people who love to run it, and I think it totally does have merit. It's very fun and it's like tempo. So let's take a look at now Jeff's third matchup, where he did actually end up take the loss, but he gives us some notes about it. So we have Tyranids Crusher Stampede. So this is a matchup that he actually has beaten in the past, but the enemy adapted and learned, because that's what Tyranids do, right? After they eat some, take a crump and they eat some brain matter and they learn. So we have a Hive Tyrant, Av the Warlord, 1 unit of Biovores, 2 Exocrines, a Maliceptor, Neuro Gaunts, 3 Norn Emissaries, 2 Ripper Swarms, and then 2 Tyranno Fexes for the good old thick city right here. So as for his notes, he was saying the Tyranid player realized that his bugs could actually withstand damage from the orcs outside of the wall, and that he doesn't do too much damage pretty much outside of the wall to any degree with this army, right? And it's pretty much true. If you really look at it, the gas and the 20 boys need to make contact on the wall to kill any and all of these monsters in any reliable way. There's not even a mech to fathom that the tank buster boys outside of firing deck would kill a monster of any sort. Of course, it's not getting +1 to wound in that case either, so it would already be very out of the question. But this is definitely not happening if it's if they're hitting on 5s in that degree as well. So the enemy realized, well, I could just put a couple monsters and assets forward, maybe just 1 Norn Emissary, and you still have to do something and come to get it. So he said even then his dice were cold, and he was only able to kill 1 of the big bugs instead of killing all 3. So slowly over time, the enemy still had enough assets to kill him and swing that game. And so he said that was just a good call by the enemy. So 78-point loss there. And that's what I also noticed about running when you run something like this matchup where you're running the bricks and gases. You need them all to activate, and you need your wall to actually be the entire backbone of this. Otherwise, you don't do damage outside of that. You can't really prolong the game either. It comes down to, okay, we're here, turn 2 wall, let's get it, boom, get up in there. So the enemy realized that, didn't put all his assets forward, didn't allow for a death blow, and he was able to win that in the slow war of attrition. So then going into his 4th game, where he makes a comeback with a 90-point win, he goes into the Blood Angels. So we have Commander Dante, the Sanguinor, Apothecary, Captain with Jump Pack, and Lieutenant with Combi Weapon. We have an Intercessor Squad, 5 Devastators, 6 Inceptors, 5 Infiltrators, 3x3 Sanguinary Guards, 2 Vindicator, and a Caladius Assassin. A lot of the time this comes down to they have to also use, how they're going to pop a battle wagon to any regard, right? A Vindicator might, but it just gets a random number of shots. Not necessarily reliable in that case. So they're going to have to put most of their assets forward, even if they're killing those 120 man unit of boys. In Fight on Death, you're hurting or killing multiple of them if you have your characters in the right spot. And they can't pop Armor of Contempt, as for how it's the order of activation and how it works when they're being targeted with Fight on Death, even in that case. So their Sanguinary Guard will be taking crumpins in that case, just straight to the face. So ended up taking that with a 90-point win there. And then as for his fifth game, where he ended up getting another 97-point win, so another big W here, he went into the Death Guard. So he did have notes about this to a certain degree, saying about how this was a challenging matchup and that he was a little bit worried about it. So let's take a look at it real quick. He has Mortadion's Hammer with a Foul Blight Spawn, Lord of Contagion, Lord of Pox, Lord of Virulence, Tallyman, and Typhus. So it's called Mortarion's Hammer, but it doesn't have Mortarion. So that's cool. Big Brick of Plague Marines, a Chaos Rhino, Land Raider, three man bricks of Death Shroud Terminators, 3 floated Blight Stones with heavy Blight launchers, 3 Mephitic Blight Haulers. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot how to pronounce that. And then Poxwalkers. It just won 10 million of Poxwalkers. So when you drop Morty, you get a lot more stuff, and you get a lot of these cheap transports. Sorry, not transports. Well, they're not transports, but you do get cheap transports in the Rhinos, I guess. But really, you get all these cheap armor hulls that are like T10, I believe. And they're just have just enough damage. They spread their contagions. They have speed. They shoot. They fight to a certain degree. This one actually doesn't have the fighting capacity. Blight Launcher is pretty sick too, I guess, into big breaks of boys. That'd be pretty annoying. And then he has the Land Raider, followed by the Rhino, like I said. So as for how this actually played out, some of his notes that he gave to this game. He said the fact that he had the big brick of Foul Blight Spawn Plague Marines was a big problem with the fact that there's no advance ending within 9 of them. Otherwise you activate their abilities. And in that case, they also I'm pretty sure they fight first. I have to look back at that. But other than that, he said I really had to just ignore it entirely and push into the middle to kill most of his drones on the wall. He dropped his death shrouds, but even 6 of them killed his filled 20 boys with -1 to wound between their shooting and their fighting. Ultimately, he won out on primary, but it was a scary matchup for him nonetheless. He said that he thinks the Death Guard are going to be a very challenging matchup for Orks going forward. And he thinks that some of the drones might take some point increases as well. There might not be as many of them. He still thinks that Orks have play into them, and it's probably is still War Horde. But he thinks that nonetheless that it's going to be a matchup that you're going to have to think as for what can actually happen to your 20-man units of Ork boys. So when we're looking at something that I personally really like, which is that 20-man unit of Ork boy brick, can these really hold out during what is to come with the the current codexes? These guys have really good ability to focus down just about anything and eliminate it off the field. So the 20-man unit of boys ends up not really end up being a good trade. Each of these combos where it's a 20 boys plus 2 characters and a battle wagon, costs you over about 400 points. So it's a huge investment. And in that case, if you're not bringing them, are you even bringing Gaz? So if this archetype itself might not see as much play unless someone really commits to it. And even Jeff really says himself. So even though he thinks it has good plans just about everything else, and he's proven that as the enemies and codexes, whether it's power creep, whatever you guys want to call it, is true or not, the ability to focus down 20-man units of boys is going to be, what's in question if you're paying for that entire package, right? It's not that the Pain Boy isn't valuable, because yes, we all agree that the Pain Boy is valuable. It's the fact that they're going to be able to focus down the packages as a whole, whether it's the battle wagon or the characters and the boys. So not that Jeff hates this. Of course, it still has play if you're running it in your league or your local place and RTTs. You're still going to have a good play into it. It still has that great ultimate wall that everybody loves to see, where you're using boys and Gaz and cracking down on critical 5+. But as we look at what is to come, can this archetype still find its way and still find play? But nonetheless, shout out to Jeff Jew for his comments and his conclusion as that he does think War Horde is where going to be the way is to play, but he thinks that it's also going to probably come down to MSU kind of style and archetype. So with that being said, can we get a wall for Jeff Jew and his great wall? And we move on. So we move on to another excellent war boss who's already won his golden ticket. You know, he has already been tried and true. We've seen his archetype ran through many times, so we're not going to spend a bunch of time looking over this. But he also gave me some of his thoughts as well as for what he thinks about Green Tide as a whole, which we'll cover this at the end. So as for Noah Bedham's archetype in himself, he actually won it with the golden ticket with it, but he did have to change it with the increase of the tank buses in themselves. Let me move these chats real quick so you can see Noah's. So let's run through it again real quick. What's up, Tooth Snatcher? Whoa, Jay Hune. Yeah, see you guys. Tiger Melts, all you guys in chat. Brandon. Oh, Brandon showed up. Let's go. Brandon's trying to get up in here as War Boss, right? So Schultz After Dark. What's up, homie? So with Noah's Green Tide, we have 2 Pain Boys, 2 War Bosses, and then the Weird Boy as the Warlord for that fixed mission play. 4 20-man units of boys plus a 10-man unit of boys. 1 truck, 1 battle wagon, 5 flash kits, 1 Gretchen, a 10-man unit of commandos, 2 5-man units of boys, and then 2 tank buster units. So he did have to drop a truck. This used to have 2 trucks with 2 SWAT teams into play on them. With the increases in the units that he wanted to keep, which was the boys and the leaders and the tank busters in themselves, he still ended up just dropping the other SWAT teams. And he did decide to keep the wagon, right? That was something that he was not sure about. Do I need it? Do I want it? He still finds it to have good value and plays for staging and its ability to bait the enemy out for its point costs. You know, it helps with kind of moving things around and staging too. So Noah still bought it, but he ended up having to pay the cost of the additional truck. So that means you lose even less units. So how this usually plays out is you have the Weird Boy with the 20 boys. Each War Boss and Pain Boy gets put into one big brick, and then there's a brick that doesn't have a character. So the unit that doesn't have a character ends up kind of acting as the first wave to draw enemy units and then to actually have a proper wall. I don't think I'm muted, right? What's up? Hopefully not. So then we have so that's usually typically how it plays out. We do have that covered where we have him talking about it also on our members video where he goes into a deep dive on it, and other videos where we covered it with actual his notes that can be found in our Discord on the PDF on how to run this as well. So if you still have interest in the Green Tide after this, you can check it out. But let's take a look at his actual path to victory. Real quick, and I was like, man, am I muted? I don't think I am, you guys. Someone said that. You guys are cracking up. Let me open this chat back up so I can see who big headed gets. He said, unnerf more Dakako. We can reset DG and Emperor's Children meta. And that brings up the tried and true question that's always been brought into play. What if GW just let things play out as they brought out more codexes just a little longer? Now, not that I think more Naka was okay with where it's at, but if you gave it like a minor tweak, that way, when these new codexes came in, if they were already deemed as pretty strong by your playtesters or whatever, then at least we can, see them try to hold out to each other and make the meta a little more safe. But at the same time, then it becomes, are those the only detachments that have any play in all of 40K? Then does it go back to, well, now you can only play those Chaos and the Orks and everybody's just toxic at the top. So that's always what's put out in play. So it's not that I'm choosing a side necessarily, but if I had to choose, I would tell you, Jay Hune. Whoa! And of course, as Orks, we carry on because it doesn't matter who's there. We're there to crump. And of course, we're not muted. All right. Shout out to Jay Hune. All right. Someone said muted. I'm trying to fake me out. This new feature, you guys. I'm just kidding. So let's take a look at Noah's game real quick. So love this kid. He's always showing off. But he did say some interesting things after this. So for his first matchup, he goes into Space Marines. We have Lieutenant with Combi Weapon, Malnese Calgar, Ubute Gilman. Intercessors, 2 units of Dreadnoughts, a Centurion Assault Squad. So that's kind of fun. I actually kind of like Centurions. I have Imperial Fist Space Marines. A lot of them are fully painted that I own. But if I played Space Marines at all right now, I'd find a way to play with some Centurions. I would try to fit some. A Company of Heroes unit, Incursor, Outrider, Scout, 2 units of Storm Speeder Hammerheads, and then a Storm Raven gunship. So this actually has been having play where you still use the gunship. It can deliver units in some of those dreadnoughts. It can focus down enemy assets that you don't want them to kill. It's not necessarily easy to kill itself. It can drop into like its hover mode kind of focus way and kind of move around the field as like a mobile gun platform. or like a little flying dread land raider. Of course, with the double oath, but when you're playing with this many kind of boys, it does draw on a lot of their assets and to require like the combined arms asset of this army to move up and try to take out those boys. And if they're not experienced with how to like to control the orc rate, then Noah will kind of start touching them, bad touching, moving up the field, eroding them, their assets, and then there's not enough to really dig the the Marines out of the hole once the Orks have delivered their wall and picked up too many of their assets. So 90-point win there right there for Noah. Shout out to him. And then he goes into his second game where he ends up losing, which is into the Space Marine Chaos Cult. We have Cypher, Dark Apostle, Dark Commune, and Sorcerer and Terminator Armor. 1 unit of cultist mob, Curtis, and then 2 units. Sorry, 3 10-man units of accursed. Excuse, yeah, I messed that up. 1 battle line unit of cultist mob, and then 3 big bricks of accursed cultist, followed by a chaos biker squad, 3 of those, and then 3 units of noise marines, followed by nurglings and 2 war dog huntsmen. All right, sorry, I got all tongue twisted there. So we got 3 of those ACDC bricks, right? So these guys are fast, excellent for actually killing orc boy units. So for their actual big thick boys that they have in these units, actually, yeah, here we go. These hideous mutations, they actually get like D6 punches each, strength 6. What you said right here? Oh, he said he ended up losing this one because it didn't let us start round 5. So they timed out. He ended up losing this one. What's up? Oh, no, what? Yeah. And our video, that's such a good, that's actually a great YouTube little picture there right there, dude. I love that. So he said this round, I lost because the clock rules didn't let us start round 5. He put you, but he meant I understood there. Shout out to you. What's up for being here? Whoa! But these guys do actually have some good threat into orcs as well. So you got to play the game as a good a tempo as you have ability to kill them. They have the ability to kill us to a certain degree. Then we have the biker units for their scoring, the noise marines for all their shooting, and then the war dog huntsmen. These guys have respectable OC, so if they taunt to an objective, it does require you to get enough boys bring it in and kind of keep that going throughout the whole game. But nonetheless, he said that just ended up losing his way there, and they did start round 5. Yeah, and then we move on because we're going to talk about how his thoughts a little bit as a whole at the end of it. So then we'll move on to his third video. His third matchup was against Drakari. So we have Lilix Hexbrat followed by big brick of 10 Cabalite Warriors. Actually, 2 of those. Followed by Witch unit, 2 5-man units of Drakes, 2 6-man Reaver. Oh, 3 6-man Reavers. Sorry, we wasn't expecting that. Followed by 3 Chronos, 3 units of 2 Talos, Void Raven Bomber, and then 3 units of Venom. So a bunch of these 3x3. I kind of like that. It's pretty good little matchup there. So Eldar do actually have some, killing potential. They do have to be respected. Once you make contact with enough of these kind of thicker assets between the Chronos, the Talos, and don't give the Void Raven any good targets or good places to land. Then it does become like a thing where you can end up kind of duking it out with them and killing them throughout the middle of the table. So 89-point win there. Shout out to Noah, always executing a great wall with the green tide. And then we move into his 4th game, which was against Astra Militarum. We have a Catachan Command Squad, Commissar, Gaunt's Ghost, followed by Militarum Tempest Command Squad, Ministorm Priest, Nork's Dead Dog, Rogel Dorn Commanders, 2 of them. Then for Battle Line, we have a big brick of Catachan Jungle Fighters, which out, so they get up there. Get up the field early, followed by a Death Corps of Krieg unit. So the thing about these guys is they do have feel no pain, they have a little bit of staying power. Then, of course, remember when you're playing Astronaut Time, they can just regen one of these guys for 2 CP. Followed by a Torax Prime with dedicated transport, 2 Cadian heavy weapon squads. I think that's pretty fun. But they have, of course, their mortars as well, so not fun for us. Then we have Hellhounds, followed by Lehman Russ Exterminator, Ogren Squad. Ogren Squad, what's up with the Ripper guns? That's the point increase on the other variants, the Bullgrin, makes people these a little bit more interesting. Kind of tough, kind of interesting. I'd be excited to see those on the other side of the field as an Ork player, and I'd be like, yeah, let me crump them. So a Scout Sentinels, 2 of those, followed by a Tempestus Scion squad. A little unorthodox kind of Ork guardsman list. I think that them bringing the bricks is just like, all right, we'll throw our bricks and kill you and just keep moving our way up the field and chugging it with the initiative. Easier said than done against guard. You can Dorn commanders can go off and still kill you, but Noah pulled off a 100-point win, so things went his way. And then we go on to his last game. He said Bayonet nearly killed the Naked Man units. Who's that? Bonnet? I don't know who that is. Game was super tough, lots of fun. So that's awesome. Then we have Tyranids with Blob Annihilation. What the heck? Oh, Assimilation Swarm. Okay, I was like, what the heck? We have a Hive Tyrant, a Swarm Lord, Biovore, Harlspecs, followed by a Lictor, Psychophage, Pylovores, 2 of them, 3 of them. 3 units of Pylovores. Oh, okay. Because 2 of these Pylovore units are 3-mans. All right. A lot of flamers right there. Not bad. Raven unit, Reaver unit. Ravener. Sorry. 3 Ripper swarms, followed by 2 Tyrannofexes with rupture cannons. All right, so they don't have the acid spray. That would be a more interesting for the Tyranid player. Then 2 units of Tyrant Guard, followed by Venom Throat. So the Tyrant Guard acting like little bodyguards up here, probably. Yeah, for the Swarm Lord and the Hive Tyrant. They give them feel no pains, from what I remember. So that's pretty fun. Interesting. Only 52 points for the win there. So a low scoring game, but ultimately still a W still in the end. So yeah, this one they didn't even get to start round 5. So in the end, he said the universe evened out. So he said in this case, this one wasn't time went out here too, which is interesting because Noah does get a lot of reps. So I'm not saying it was his fault. Just the game takes a lot of time because even the opponent ends up using every single one of their dice to shoot you, to kill you. So you might think, well, was it this? Is Noah? No, Noah is we'll just say proven. Got his golden ticket. He's probably using his clock correctly and he's good about it. You've seen people, Ork players, shout out to Matt Welsh, that where he was running Green Tide. A lot of Ork players already have their dice on the side and where their casualty count bodies are going. They're really organized, but the enemies, when they're not used to it, end up being like, well, oh my gosh, I got to roll my dice to try to actually kill this, and I'm overthinking it. And if I shoot here, they're gonna surge into me, and then they're gonna regrow and steal the objective, and all this different things. So it ends up taking both sides a lot of time. That's all I'm saying. So as for Noah, he still said he got best overall. He was happy about that. So shout out to you. That's fun. But as he thinks going forward, he's not really going to be using Tide anymore. Try to have a little bit of fun with it. And in all, I just wondered, is something like this also going to be able to hold out against the new codexes that are coming into play? So it's comes down to between Emperor's Children, Death Guard, World Eaters, their ability to really focus down these Thousand Suns, their ability to focus down possible bricks of boys could be another reason why you don't really see as much Green Tide being played either anymore. And Noah's actually here in chat, so Noah, let me know what you think right now. But a lot of the time Ork players are already looking at it as I'm dying a little too quick into these armies. Are we going to end up changing into a more MSU kind of threat saturation overload army? So I'm personally a fan of Green Tide, of course, but we have to see what these armies actually provide. So at the time of this recording, there's also been a little bit of leakage of the possible new missions that are coming out, which look pretty official. We're not going to talk about that right now necessarily as well. So the new missions are coming out to play. We're going to see, does that give us player a reason to keep continuing playing Green Tide either? So Green Tide is always kind of a skew, and of course, like any skew, if the enemy brings just the appropriate tools to deal with your skew, then you kind of falls on the wayside. Is it going to be just so that these detachments and armies, the Space Wolves as well, that are coming out, not necessarily sure they can do it, but are these guys going to be something that's going to deter other Ork players from doing it? Noah himself is saying he thinks Tide can still end up doing well. You know, at how much commitment do these people have, right? You might have one Death Guard brick of Death Shroud where they're ultimately using critical 5+s and ultimately super killing one mob of boys, but we're about the rest of the battlefield, right? You feed them the 20-man unit of naked boys. You know, is that going to end up giving them just enough to hold them back while you kind of eat up the rest of the Death Guard's army? So those are some matchups that you look at it and you think, well, they're ultimately killing 120 man of boys, but that's then the great part of the redundancy with so many boys and the fact that we're going to have feel no pain. Feel no pain seem really important into those new armies and matchups as well. And one more thing Noah thinks, at least right here, is that he thinks the missions are good, changes for Tide. So we're not going to talk about necessarily that right now, maybe in another video coming up as for the new missions once they're officially announced. But that's something that we all have to think about when we're playing Ork players and playing Tide in itself. It becomes an investment in your mind and your time. So shout out to Noah and good luck on the rest of his Ork detachments or whatever he chooses to play going forward. But war for the rise of the Green Tide and any other Ork players that feel encouraged and motivated to play this, because every weekend, you know, we kind of see that where a couple players slip through with this archetype. So we're not trying to discourage you guys. We're just showing both sides of that coin. So let us know what you think in the comments or in the chats, and we move on. So now we move on to last but certainly not least. We're going to Finland here, you gets, right? This is where I pulled it out. So we have War on All Worlds here. So let me pull out some of these tabs real quick before I get lost in the sauce. But yeah, so we've actually covered a little Finland meta before. That's pretty awesome. I always like to give a shout out to those guys and take a look at them. So we have War of the Worlds here. So it was a smaller event. And these are the gets that are out here confusing people. So even though I'm giving you guys love, you need to contact your TO and let them know. Don't be confusing people. Thinking more Daka got an X and a 1 win here, all right? Because you put down our boy here, Junie, as a Daka, a more Daka player, and he was a War Horde player. All right, so I'm giving you love, but I'm also giving that attention. Shout out to Juso King because even though he ended up winning that event, he played Orks before and we covered him too. But he ended up winning the event with Death Guard, which we're going to talk about, you know, that matchup as well, because that is the army that our War Horde player did end up playing into and taking the loss into. So let's take a look at his actual list with a good old-fashioned War Horde. So it was funny because his actual title on his list was first turn WAAAGH, which I think of it in two ways, right? It's either he's being literal and he's like, I'm gonna try to turn one WAAAGH you, or he's trying to psychologically, psych the enemy out and let them think I'm gonna turn one WAAAGH you, even though he has no really reason to necessarily turn WAAAGH. He just knows that's a stereotype for Orks. So I actually like that he's done both of that. I like that he actually showed that in his list. So normally, you know, I'm not someone who's too creative on list names and titles and such. But something like that, like psychological warfare, I appreciate that. Or was he just being literal? So that was funny. You guys let me know what you think about that as the name. But let's take a look at this Warhorde list. We have a Beast Boss, and we have the Death Killer War Trike with Super Cyborg Body. Something always slept on, in my opinion, that we've had around Index Hammer. So shout out to that. Love it. Then we have a Pain Boy, a War Boss of Follow Me Lads with 2 more War Bosses. 10-man unit of Snaggers, a 20-man unit of Boys, 3 trucks, 2 breakers, 2 5-man flash kits, 1 Gretchen, 3 tank busters, and a battle wagon. Now, what I appreciate about this battle wagon 20-man unit of boy combo, even though I love that it's the meat and potatoes of the Ork Codex. We just talked about it. The other War Horde list as well is running 2 of these, but in this case, we're just running 1 because you can get more assets, more tools, more killing potential that don't rely on gas in that case. In this way, it just ends up playing a mid-table kind of hold the ground and play primary and still hurt, but not necessarily swing the game, kill you on the wall with just 20 boys. What he also has here is the Zap Gun. Now, the Zap Gun isn't necessarily amazing. Just want to give a shout out to the Zap Gun. Ork players a lot of time are looking ways to save dice. Personally, something like a Zap Gun is a nice little tool where you go, hey, if this goes off an anti-vehicle, which I really need anyways in most of my Ork lists, nice. If it doesn't, I didn't waste all the time rolling all the dice for the cannon. So in combat, you're not using it anyways, wasting time if you do get to combat. So I like the Zap Gun. Shout out to that real quick. But shout out to the Death Killer War Trike, right? Which was also his Warlord, which was an interesting tool as well. So nonetheless, I think this has a lot of the tools that we want to see. Still has a very important wall because the 20-man boys need to get off on the wall for their 5-up emblem to their feel no pain and -1 the wound actually matter. But the breaker boys need to get off on the wall typically because they're low volume attacks. And then I do think you need the war bosses for the +1 to hit, also for the volume of punches, so they can actually get through more variety of units when you have the 9 attacks from the war bosses to assist you. The beast boss himself being able to critical 5+ just automatically dav wound something to death, this feels fantastic. So it has all tools we really want to see, and I like having more assets. As much as I love gas, I like having a little bit more tools. So if I am bringing gas, or whether I'm not, I'm trying to have more tools on the list anyways. Now the interesting part here is 3 tank busters. No characters. I mean, that, it's interesting, not in the sense that you guys are surprised to see it, just that he's leaning even more into it with more stuff. So shout out to that. And let's also get into his path to victory. What's up, Chris? What's up, Chris? He goes, got into Orks this weekend, enjoying your content. Yeah, whoa for that get. Let's get some Def Dreads and knobs in chat for this get right here, getting into Orks. Take it easy. Don't get saturated by the mobs, by all the plastic and getting overwhelmed with what to paint and what to build. So just take it easy, learn the rules and have fun. It's a long-term army and it's a lot of, to invest in. So just have fun with it. That's what we're here for, and that's what we represent as a community. Not only efficient killers, crumping gets, but we also are having a good time. So all the players that we talk to and we cover, one thing that they always do is have a good time. That's why they have so much variety that we get to see here. So let's take a look at our boys' actual path to victory. Oop, I showed his list, and just to show you, see, it says first turn WAAAGH. Was he playing? Was that real? What do you guys think? Is he psychological warfare here? Is he big brain thinking, or is he just letting the enemy know, kind of like a orc with an attack moon? I'm coming your way, whoa! So I'm not sure, but I thought it was fun. So his first matchup, he and love. So we have Death Leaper, Biophages, 2 of them, Patriarch, and Reductus Saboteur. 4 of these 5-man units of hybrids, then 2 aberrant units, 2 neurolictors, 1 10-man unit of pure strain gene stealers, 3 Keely Ridge Runners, followed by 3 Goliath Rock Grinders. So it's surprising not to see like too many bricks up in here. He does have like some gargoyles, which is very annoying. Utilizing the gargoyles like move, shoot, move is very, very important and good in orc matchups if they actually utilize it and set it off properly. As for the killing potential, the boys allow you to keep them, the whole entire battlefield to stop them from, returning in and kind of eroding you slowly as they typically like to do. It forces them to all focus on it, which other variety of units you have on your list, whether it's tank busters, combined arms, of being able to pop something really reliably like a rock grinder or a ridge runner, something that's lacking armor of contempt, really feels good for these guys. So being able to pop that and then to be able to run off and punch into some other units like gargoyles themselves or acolytes, it means everything in this army can go forward without much restraint. Even though you do have the pure strange units there, typically these guys will be thrown at you kind of early, and if you can kind of stage them off with the trike plus some trucks and whatever, maybe some flash gets to hold them back and deal with them early, from there on you kind of just become a overwhelming threat. So 100 points put up there from this get. I do feel like the Death Killer War Trike becomes just a funny delay tool in that matchup, and I really like to see it. And yeah, it's on WTC terrain too. Then we have 10 Wall Tactic gifted membership. So what did this give? Andrew Stone, super supportive as always. Shout out to you, Andrew, for helping out the Great WAAAGH and showing some love. So check out the content in the members. We're gonna bring more content as to that, and of course the after action reports that we're getting ready to do. I got the tripod to take my notes and everything, so we're gonna have a good time. Thank you to Gets Like You, Andrew, and it means a lot. So check that out. And of course, if we do that live video with Brandon, then later, I hope to see you there, Andrew. So thank you for the love, and I'm sure our boys all appreciate it as well. So shout out, can we get some more bosses and knobs in the chat for that? It's always very humbling when people do that. So thank you, Andrew. Always very humbling for me. Get a little shy. All right, so then we move on to the second matchup. Well, we have the Knights. So he has Canis Rex, followed by Crassus, Knight, Apothos. This dude's really good at killing vehicles from what I remember. Then we have 2 Helvrins, 4 Warglaves, Sister of Battle Emulator Squad, plus Sister 10-man unit of Sisters of Battle with a Watch Captain Artemis. That's kind of fun. I used to own Death Watch. So yeah, this guy's cool, the old model with the little power sword. It's cool. Nonetheless, this is very typical to what Knights are playing right now, where they run the sisters kind of at the side so they can actually score secondaries, play some kind of trash stuff as well. Possibly split the sisters into 2 5-man squads too, and then they just have more stuff and activations. Nonetheless, having a bunch of breaker boys and tank busters and the 20-man unit ways cause them to focus to go to kill it. Def kill a war trike that's gonna draw them out to bring one of these baby knights to get into a fight with it and to kind of start the rolling over of this is pretty awesome to see. So Temni of Snaggers here. There's just so many tools that can end up kind of crumping down on that army. So not necessarily surprising, not an easy win. You still have to execute a proper wall there. But I can see how that was the win. So then we move on to his third matchup, where we have Funk. Yeah, and it's on WTC, right? Good staging positions in WTC. Where we have Necron's Awakened Dynasty. So we have Necron, Katad, Nightshard, Luminor, Suzeris, followed by Emotech the Stormlord, Scorpec Lord, Technomancer, followed by 2 Crypto Thralls, 2 units of 3 Ophidian Destroyers, 2 3-man units of Scorpex Destroyers, 1 Locust Destroyer, a big 6-man unit of Wraiths, followed by a Reanimator and 2 Doomsday Arcs. So a lot of points to the characters. And a lot of the time it's about, can you tar pit the Nightbringer with the boys? Make him not really that important into your 3 damage units. You don't really have to kill him. Now, if you're running something like Gaz, where you can do lethal sustain, then sure, you can really bring down something like the Nightbringer. But a lot of the time, this guy is something you tar pit with this kind of lift, and then you go into everything else. All these 3 wound bodies, these couple, Doomsday Arcs, which are getting absolutely murdered as well. Not really good Overwatch targets here, so the Breaker Boys are getting into their targets, pretty reliably with that full max potential. So everything's getting kind of crumbed pretty reliably and hard now. Besides the Nightbringer and maybe where's the Luminor Caesaris with his like 4 Feel No Pain, I believe. So it is a very killy army in its own sense as well. But Orks just end up having the right profiles a lot of time to really kind of chew through the neck on our Necron armies, and they don't have like the right trading pieces for that either necessarily. So shout out to that, right? Just a little 4 Feel No Pain, Def Kill a War Trike, causing them to come out would suck. So then we go into his 4th matchup where he ends up taking a loss, where we talked about earlier, into the Death Guard. So we have what is Virulent Vectorium. So we have Biologus Putrefier, followed by Demon Prince of Nurgle, Lord of Contagion, Lord of Virulence, Malignant Planecaster, followed by a 10-man unit of Plague Marines, 6-man unit of Death Shroud Terminators, a 3-man unit of Death Shroud Terminators, 2 10-man unit of Poxwalkers, 2 Chaos Spawn, and then 2 units of Floated Blight Drones with Flesh Mowers, followed by 3 Floated Blight Drones with Blight Launchers, and then a Chaos Rhino. So Blight Launchers are pretty tough. Yeah, he's meta right now, right here. So this, like we talked about before, might just have just enough too much killing power and hard trades for our Orks, for example, right, to kill something like a Floated Bloat Drone. Is already a little bit kind of like a crappy trade for us, right? For 90 points, as much as flash kits are freaking awesome and doing a lot of things, they're not really putting a reliable kill on these Floated Bloat Drones, for example. So they're spreading the contagion. As we come out to trade with them, they kill them, we get a bad trade out of it, then they come out and they kill us. So there's a lot going on there, but as we move on, we'll talk about Death Guard in itself. We might have to do a video like about Orks looking at all of those new codexes at once. Might be looking at World Eaters, Emperor's Children, Death Guard, and just kind of how it looks for us and Orks and how we feel. We might have to have interest in that. So if you want to see that, let us know in the comments, as we can end up doing something based off of that as well. So with that being said, he ended up losing that game to that Death Guard. Oops, was I showing my fat head again? Yeah, I was. Here it is. Here's a list. Sorry, guys. I was showing off the list. So yeah, so we'll take a look at that, but he ended up losing that game with a 38 points, pretty harsh matchup right there. But he moves on strong, as every good Ork player should do. After you take a loss, you end up taking a W there right after and have the wall keep going. So he goes into Tyranids after that with Vanguard Onslaught. So we have Death Leaper, 3 units of Rude Lords, Neuro Tyrant, a Winged Hive Tyrant, a Winged Tyrant Prime, Gargoyles, Biovores, 2 10-man Gene Stealers, a 5-man unit Stealers, 2 Lictors, 2 Neural Lictors, Ravener, sorry, I said Raven, a Tyranid Warrior Brick with bio weapons, and then 3 Von Ryan Leapers, followed by Zoanthropes. So there are a couple units here that can like impose, of course, damage to your Orks. Gene Stealers themselves, the Biovore weapon, but they have to disembark you, right? They have them disembark you. You can deter them from block. You have to obviously keep yourself safe from getting completely surrounded, and then when you disembark, you lose too many bodies and such. But nonetheless, the fact that they don't have guns and you have a lot of transports does give you ability to kind of collapse on them and get the initiative from them. So I love to see that. Great job with that W on there with a 91-point win. And to do Tyranids as well, which I always think whenever you're playing against Tyranids, be extra aggressive as an Ork player. If you try to let them play the slow game with you and kind of do the little tricks, they want to trade body for points too. They want to throw their Tyranids at you, their Stealers, hold you back, their Gargoyles. So it's really up to you to just put the tempo on them. When they give you those stuff, kill all their assets and continue moving forward, because once you have your wall and your feel no pains up, and they really don't have enough assets to killing you after that. So with that being said, let's take a look one more time at his list. We have Beast Boss, Death Killer Wartrack with Feel No Pain as the Warlord, 1 Pain Boy, 1 War Boss with the Follow Me Lads, of course, with the 20-man boys in the wagon with the Pain Boy, getting them nice and fast. 2 War Bosses for the Breaker Boys, Snaggas, and like we talked about for the boys, 3 trucks, 2 5-man units of Flash Gets for those SWAT teams. Excellent point trading units. I hope Flash Gets never go up in points right now. Then we have Grots, 3 Tank Busters for that meta pick, and then the wagon with all the fixins, and shout out to the Zap gun. So with that being said, of course, we have to take a look at how the Orks will adapt and overcome these new beakies that are on the rise. So if you guys want to see a video maybe on that and all those detachments at once, let me know in the comments after this video. But it's really about Orks adapting. Will we stay with Taktikal Brigade and kind of the big missiling kind of 7-leader list that we're seeing out there? Are we going to see a bunch of skirmishing Ork units that are back to a war horde where you're playing very light on characters, or just bringing 6 trucks, for example? Are we going to just randomly see Dread Mobs slip in somewhere in there and just bring a bunch of battle line Grots? Who knows? But I think Orks aren't really ever in a bad place. With that being said, take a look at the content that there is to come. Take a look at the paint competition. We're covering all the Ork detachments every week. We're moving forward and covering every single one, so be on the lookout for that, and the further content we're doing with the after action reports, where I'll show off the games with pictures and some notes that I take from how the games go, with the lists that are kind of provided to me from the community. Not like they make the whole list, but they choose what units you guys want to see. I'll probably limit running something like 3 units of Tank Busters and 3 units of Ludas. Nobody really wants to see that kind of saturation that we already know how it really plays out. So be on the lookout for that if you want to know how to kind of play off meta, off the wall lists or unique kind of combos and make them work. And my thoughts behind how I kind of use them, or I don't make them work, or I get crumbs going into these new units as well, which we'll talk about. So with that being said, there's always one thing to keep in mind, is don't cross our wall, because we'll not get T-Val. Whoa!